Good afternoon. This is Mrs. Olsen. I'm doing this story this afternoon. We're going to start a new unit, our domain unit 10, and it's called A New Nation. It's about when America was a young nation and how she got to be a nation. Also, I want to let the parents know that we will be starting Canvas pretty soon. I've said that before, but there's a lady who reads these stories and does the flip story pictures on the canvas, and she's easy to listen to, so I know you'll enjoy that. Okay, we're going to talk about some vocabulary. A colony is a region or a place controlled by a faraway country. For example, Massachusetts was a British colony in America before the American Revolution. Freedoms: personal liberties or rights to determine personal action. As an oldest child, my sister has certain freedoms that I don't have. Government: a group of people who makes decisions and laws for a larger group of people. Indentured servants: people who must work for another person for a specific time in exchange for learning a trade and having their freedom. Settlements: regions or places where a group of people move to live. For example, the English had settlements throughout North America. Slaves: people who work for others for no pay and do not have the freedom to make personal choices. Okay, so we're going to start about young America. This is North America. This is the continent of North America where we live today. Many hundreds of years ago, life in North America was very different than it is today. This is my flipboard. Okay, the first people who lived in North America are known as Native Americans. The Native Americans lived in groups called tribes in different regions of North America. There were no stores like we have now. They had to find or make everything they needed to survive, whether it was food to eat, clothing to wear, or a house in which to live. Hundreds of years later came, we might know who this is from in October. This is Christopher Columbus. He was a European explorer, and he had sailed and reached North America, but that was not where he had planned to go. Columbus set sail from Europe, hoping to find a quicker way to reach India and China, where spices and gold and other riches were plentiful. Now, but in 1492, when Columbus actually reached land, after he sailed the ocean blue, he and his crew did not arrive in India or China. They landed instead in North America, where they met the native people who lived there. And there's a picture of that. Here he is. And he landed somewhere around the Bahamas. Okay.
San Salvador, to be exact.
Okay. Now, after Columbus, sailors from different countries in Europe traveled to North America. So after Columbus came, other sailors came to North America. Portugal, Holland, Spain, and France, and England all sent explorers to North America. Okay. Let's turn our page. All right. This is Europe right here. And this is North America. Okay, so they traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. All right. People were sailing across the Atlantic Ocean to North America, continuing to hope to find riches and goods that they may bring back to trade and sell in Europe. Everyone was interested in the New World. There were many settlements that were in the New World, English settlements that were before Thanksgiving and after the first Thanksgiving. The English did not want to just visit the New World. They were interested in starting settlements in order to live there. They wanted a place for their people to spread out from the small island country. England is where they were, and they traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. You probably remember that the English pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in the 1600s, about 100 years after Columbus. The pilgrims had great difficulty adjusting to their life in the New World because it was different than city life that they knew in Europe. The Native Americans that the pilgrims met helped them to survive, especially during the first year. We all remember that story.
Mm-hmm. Good one, too.
Okay, here's a map to look at of the United States.
And there's the cat.
The Pilgrims were not the only English people to start settlements in North America. In fact, before the Pilgrims ever arrived in Plymouth, other English men and women had settled into other places. The first colony was on Roanoke Island, followed by a colony at Jamestown. A colony is a place that is ruled by a faraway country. So the English men and women who moved to and settled Roanoke Island and Jamestown did not make their own rules or laws. The English king and the government from Europe ruled the colonies. Okay, and we can see the places that they settled. This is where it's the English colonies settled, and this is where the Pilgrims settled.
Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, the first child born in North America to English parents was called Virginia Dare. It was a little girl. We don't really know what happened to Virginia Dare or the other English settlers living on Roanoke Island because they mysteriously disappeared several years after they arrived. For this reason, Roanoke Colony was often called the Lost Colony. Some people think life was so difficult on Roanoke Island that the colonists left their settlement and went to live with some of the Native American tribes nearby. Remember, the Pilgrims had difficulty too, and they depended on the Native Americans to help them grow food and how to hunt and survive. Some people think the Roanoke island settlers may have gone to live with these Native Americans since they may have run out of food. The English landing at Jamestown. It was another... How many years? It was another 20 years after Roanoke Colony before the English tried to settle again in North America. When they did, 100 English men and boys sailed up a river from the Atlantic Ocean named the James River in honor of their King of England. His name was James. The settlement they founded was called Jamestown. Like the other English settlers, the people who came to Jamestown met the Native Americans who were already living in this area. The English wanted to trade goods with them and were especially interested in acquiring the Native Americans' beaver and deer skins to send back to England. They were able to sell the beaver skins and the deer skins at a high price. As time passed, more colonies... Oops, is this them selling back? I think this is them selling back. Yeah. This is them selling back and forth with the beaver skins and the deer skins and the goods. All right.
13 original colonies.
Here we go. As time passed, more and more settlers from Great Britain arrived in North America. All up and down the east coast of North America, they formed more colonies where they started new lives for themselves. By 1732, there were 13 British colonies in North America: Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Now, the British did not accomplish all this hard work of setting up the colonies by themselves. They especially needed lots of helpers to clear the farm and the land. European ships brought people taken from the continent of Africa to work in the New World. The first Africans to arrive at Jamestown were probably indentured servants. Indentured servants. This meant they were forced to work with no pay for the English colony and colonists for a certain number of years. During this time, the Africans were not free to live or work anywhere else until they had finished working for the agreed upon number of years. After that time, they were free to live and work wherever they wanted and to be paid for that work. As the British colonies grew, more and more workers were needed. Before long, many people from Africa were forced to come to North America and were no longer treated as indentured servants. They were slaves. The slaves did not share the freedoms enjoyed by the colonists. They could not leave their farms without permission, and it was against the law for anyone to teach a slave to read and write. As the colonists settled in colonies, more changes were to come. And we think about our freedoms we have in the United States of America today. Freedoms are rights to decide what you want to do and how you want to live. Okay.